Our guest speaker for today, again, Reverend Brunlin, she's here. She's not on sabbatical or vacation or anything. She's with our youth. So we are delighted to have Reverend Tom Newman with us today. Reverend Tom was ordained by the Church of Metaphysical Christianity in Sarasota, Florida in 1995. He served as the senior minister of that church for 17 years, beginning in September of 1996. He's been a member of the church for 53 years. He holds a bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida, an MBA from Nova Southeastern University, also in Florida, and a certificate of executive education from the University of Virginia. Reverend Tom moved permanently to Santa Fe in May of 2013 and has been affiliated with Unity ever since. He recently became a member of the Unity congregation in the fall of 2018, and we are so delighted that he has made this his permanent spiritual home. Please welcome Reverend Tom Newman.
Thank you very much. That was a very gracious introduction, and it's nice sitting with you and with your dad on this beautiful day. It's nice to see so many friends here, in addition to our Unity family. And I see there's some that I owe money to, and I'll try to slip out the side door. It is a workable door. You're told it's not, but it is workable. Let me get my paper here. As some of you know, I came from a background that it was metaphysical when I arrived, and that was in 1963. And this is where you gasp and say, he can't be that old. Actually, I do have a birthday this month, and as I have gotten older, I'm starting to separate birthdays into two categories. One, those are speed limits, and the other category, speeding tickets. I'm in the speeding ticket category now. This is where there's supposed to be more gasping. I will give you some silence if you need to make a nice gasp. I was sitting next to Deb Caswell when the last bachelor batch of people joined in membership with the congregation. And she leaned over to me without any concern of being politically correct and said, when are you going to join the church? And I said, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. And my concern was initially, I didn't want to lose my ministerial certification with the Sarasota Center of Light. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, well, you know, this is a community that I adore. This is a community of people that I really enjoy seeing and spending part of my life with. And I said, if I don't join, then what kind of message am I sending? You know, and I don't want to send any messages at all. Normally I sit on the fourth row with Norm. I tried to get him to come up to the front row and said, no, I can't do that. And then I tried to get some of my dear friends to sit on the front row who wouldn't know that's for the people doing the service. And they somehow instinctively knew they shouldn't do that. So anyway, this is a wonderful place to be. And ours was an independent church. It had its origins in spiritualism, and which involves working with people in the spirit world, communication with the people in the spirit world, and all of that. And trying to get an idea of the big picture, what I call the big picture. So I have, actually, in 1998, we had 2 services a Sunday, and it would take me a long time to come up with, not to come up with a topic, but to do the research on the topic. And I was working full-time at Verizon, and one day, in a private class I was having, being able to talk to one of my spirit guides, he said, we don't want you to prepare talks anymore. And then, of course, in my mind, I said, are they not good enough to do the church service? Or, well, why are you saying that? And he said, he said, I will speak through you. So I said, well, that's great. That gives me a lot of extra time. So actually, from that time forward, I probably did 1,400 talks, not only in Sarasota, but I've taught in all over the U.S. and a little bit in England. And sure enough, his name is Dr. Meredith. Sure enough, Dr. Meredith has come through. So I will be just doing this inspirationally. It was Gwendolyn thought about my background and said, well, this would be ideal because New Thought Sunday, Phineas Quimby, in the mid to late 1800s, they believe that New Thought came from his writings, his journals. But if you look at the metaphysical movement in this country, pretty much of it started in around 1830 all the way up to 1900. And then organizations branched off from that. The Unity had its origins in New Thought. It was a New Thought Alliance. Let me read just a couple of their tenets and see how many of these fall into what we believe here. An infinite intelligence of God is omnipotent and omnipresent. Spirit is the ultimate reality. True human selfhood is divine. Divinely attuned thought is a positive force for good. All disease is mental in origin. Right thinking has a healing effect, the law of attraction, and also life energy. Now, think about the mid-1800s. Now, fortunately, there are some people with us that were here on the earth at that time. And Ken Creek, I don't want to miss Ken Creek either. You can talk to them later just to verify some of the things that we'll talk about today. I'm kidding. But if you can imagine this, I mean, we had come through an interesting time. And, you know, we were starting as a country to feel our place. You know, and a lot of people were first generation Americans. A lot of people had come from other countries. And the belief systems were also predominantly Orthodox. To read those tenets, those beliefs, in many churches during the mid-1800s would have meant your expulsion from the group, and or even worse. So they were quite courageous and quite brave to say, hey, we're not what our ancestors have thought we were all these years. And all of those teachings that were drummed into us or beat into us or whatever. Who are we? We are threefold beings. Now, there will be some things that come forward that are not a part of your belief system, and certainly we respect everyone's right to believe what they choose. The great thing about Unity is it's a wide umbrella that they place around beliefs. And I say, if you don't open new thoughts into your belief system, and we all have belief systems that begin as a small child, but if you don't open your mind to new thoughts, then we don't learn anything. And I know we all know individuals who just, they say, I've learned all I need to do to learn. I don't want to think about these things. And they just live their lives within that kind of confined area. More power to them. Many of the opportunities for learning come from people who are in the spiritual world. There are different types of phenomena, mediumship, that allow us to talk to individuals who are over there. One of the individuals that I talked to is the Archangel Gabriel. And actually he's going to be giving a workshop here on Saturday. 1 o'clock. Very reasonable price. And he has said, now the archangels were the first beings created by God. But he has said that the soul of us was created 3 billion years ago. Now that makes Larry and Ken and Jerry just mere infants compared to that. But their souls were created at the same time. I will ask Robert, if he would, when the service is over, to go and stand by my car and make sure the tires are not messed with, especially the air pressure. At least I didn't say anything about trying to look like you today in all black, in little dark blue. He's been my inspiration when he dresses up to sing with the choir. So think about this. The soul of us was created 3 billion years ago. That's a long time. We are the soul, actually. That is our being. We inhabit an earth suit, what I call an earth suit. It's a vehicle for us to be able to have a life here on this planet. No earth suit, no journey to the earth. It's like going to the moon. Gotta have a moon suit. Mars suit. We are also, the soul is an energetic part of existence, of life. And if you, if there are any scientists here, everything is energy of some form. The chairs we're sitting in, the floor, the buildings, and certainly we are. There are 4 energetic bodies, 3 of which make up the soul. The first energetic body is called the etheric body. Now there's a lot of understanding about the etheric body, but I think it only goes so far. That is the blueprint for the physical body. We, in some of the classes that I work with, well, that's confirmation. If it wasn't going well, I would say, oh, it's an emergency call, I have to take it. The etheric body is very important. It extends 1.5 feet from the physical body. It is the blueprint for the physical body, the blueprint. The next energetic body, which would be another probably around 4 feet, 3 to 4 feet from us, is the emotional body. That's where our emotions reside. The next energetic body is the mental body. That's where our thoughts reside. The 4th energetic body is the spiritual body, and that's the 3rd aspect of our being. That's what they would call the God energy. It is the same energy that comes from God. So we're really a threefold being, but when you get into the actual detail, we're the soul, working with a physical body to have an existence here. And then we are connected to the divine by the spiritual body. Each of the bodies, as they go out, and they would extend anywhere from 6 to 10 feet from the physical body in all directions. The more evolved we are, the further out our soul energy expands. The faster that energy moves. If you remember in I never connected well with physics and chemistry, and I tried engineering for 1 semester in school and said, too much chemistry, too much physics. As it turned out, my career with Verizon was primarily engineering, and got to be the engineering manager for the west coast of Florida, which had a lot of people. I didn't tell anybody that I rejected the whole concept of engineering. But business made sense to me. It just made sense to me. So we are a spiritual being. Spiritual being. We come to the earth primarily to learn. Because what is the what is the factor that affects our soul, vibrational rate, and its presence, physical presence? It's how much we learn and how much we grow in the spiritual way. Jesus was a wonderful example. He was a master teacher. His energy field, I'm sure, when he was here on the earth, was, much further than 10 feet. People could just be in his field and feel his presence without him saying a word. Same with Mahatma Gandhi. Same with Buddha. Same with a lot of people who came to the earth as evolved souls, and those who, while they were here, developed even further than they were when they were first born. So if you think about it, the earth experience of, how old are you? Of 70 or 80 years is really just a couple seconds on the clock of eternity. It is like a vacation. It's like a learning vacation that we come here. Now, I know a lot of times we don't feel like it's a vacation. Right, Dad?
That's right, son.
We feel like it's a punishment. I won't ask you to put your hands up, but I know that if I asked you, and if I said to you, everyone here has had between 18,000 and 20,000 lifetimes. That's what I believe to be a fact, the truth. If I were to ask you, how many of you would like to come back, there would be very few hands popping up. Right?
Right.
We find solace in the thought, this is my last visit. I'm going to do well. I'm not going to do anything to mess up and have to come back. Well, the good news is, in the spirit world, that is where we have the majority of our existence, in the spiritual world. Heaven and hell are states of mind. They aren't places we go to be rewarded or punished for our behavior. If you think about it, we're here to learn, primarily. You learn by making mistakes, right? Why would we ever be punished for making mistakes? Doesn't make sense. I have seen, I'm a scientist in the sense that I want to know the big picture. I want to see how things work. I want to see behind the scenes. Because everything needs to make sense. It needs to not violate our common sense. It could be outside of our belief systems, but that's okay. That's how we learn. But to be able to come here and make mistakes, when things are going well, we love those times. We're getting our way. Everyone loves us. People who owe us money pay it back. It's great. When we don't get our way, that's when we get frustrated. When we aren't validated by people that we would like to be validated by, when that job promotion doesn't come forward as we think it should, and we've evaluated the other candidates and we know we're better than they are. I had a lot of opportunities to speak to Dr. Meredith over the years in a private session. Our minister was a physical medium, and she got in trance, and I don't need to tell you how it worked, but the bottom line is we could speak to our spirit guides and our loved ones. So I remember many of those opportunities. I would bring up personal questions or challenges, or how do I handle this? And I remember one in particular, and I always had this sense of fairness, at least this was in my mind, that people work hard, and people who work hard get rewarded somehow, and one way of being rewarded is being promoted, okay? So I ended up finally being promoted to be a senior manager. The next position above me at Verizon was a director, and the next position was vice president, region president. So there was a new region president. He brought in some of his buddies to be directors. And just being around these folks, just every, cell in my being went, oof, this is a political appointment. These folks haven't, earned the right to be in these positions, in my thinking. So I mentioned it to, and what happens, of course, is they then, through the law of attraction, one of the tenets of New Thought, they bring other people in who aren't qualified to be in positions below them. Anybody ever experienced this? You in the back. So I remember asking Dr. Meredith one time, I said, Dr. Meredith, how do I, always wanted to be on the spiritual path, want to do the right thing. And especially as I was the minister of this church, after the last founder made her transition, everybody was always watching me. I was always on stage. So I said to him, what do we do in these situations where people are being put into high-level positions because of political affiliation, political appointments? And Dr. Meredith, I have literally talked to him since I was 13. And I sat in classes where I talked to him every week, which was wonderful. I mean, think about it. That if you could talk to somebody that could see the big picture, it wasn't limited, the physical body does limit us. It wasn't limited by that, and they had access to all knowledge. He said, and this was, like I said, I've always listened to him very carefully, because he's never been wrong. He's only had our best interests. And I've known him for 3 billion years, okay? He said, well, you got your job through a political connection. I had a lot more hair back then, and it was red. Every hair on my body just stood straight up and became a bright red. And we're in the dark. You have to be in the dark to have this phenomenon take place. I said, kindly, gently, what do you mean? He said, when you were being considered for the senior manager position you're in now, were there other people in the company that were qualified for that job? I said, yes. He said, why weren't they chosen? And this is one of those, it's kind of like the figurative 2x4, because the man doing the hiring felt more comfortable with me than he did with the others. He said, that's politics. And from that point, I gave up the need to be judge and jury for the rest of the world. I started to think, why are we here? We're here to learn. Am I learning through this experience? Yes, I am. I am. So I accepted it. Soon enough, both of them were cast out because of their incompetence. But I didn't have to be the one to do it. It came about through an understanding. We are spiritual beings. We're here to evolve as a soul. Now, there will be some people that come, and what we do is we choose life lessons. I call it going to the life lesson cafeteria. You're in the spirit world, and normally it's 100 to 150 years between lifetimes. I don't know if you know that. I'm trying to give you some tidbits you can share with your grandchildren and others. Put in some bubblegum wrappers and fortune cookies. But we make this journey. It takes a long time to plan a life. And there are organizations in the spiritual world that help people to do that. There are people that we can sit down with them and say, okay, I'd like to experience this as life lessons. And some will say, well, have you thought about this? And it might be a little too difficult or a little too easy. And so we have guidance. So it takes, normally we plan these visits, learning vacations, with our parents, our siblings, and our children. It spans that generation because we're going to play different roles in their lives. I call it going to the life lesson cafeteria. Ultimately, we're moving that tray and we're saying, ooh, let me have one of those. And that looks like Jell-O. I love the color of that. Let me have two of these. And sometimes we choose too much. And I'm sure many of you know what this is. You have chosen too much. But that's okay. That's how we learn. Sometimes we'll come down as a group. When we were created 3 billion years ago, we were put into soul groups of 144. When you meet somebody for the first time, and they're so easy to talk to, and it's like you've known them all your life, many of you end up, marrying each other. That's somebody from your soul group. Others who don't come down to be in the lifetime with you, they will stay in the spiritual world, and many of them will be primary guides to us. So they've known us again 3 billion years. Their goal is not to live our lives for us. They can't do that. Their goal is to assist us, to help us, to guide us. But ultimately, all choices are ours. All choices are ours. I've heard the Archangel Gabriel, who will be here this coming Saturday from 1 to 4, he will say, God doesn't make you do anything. It is you who volunteers to come down. And he'll say, I know you will all say, I'm not coming back ever again. I will live the rest of my life in the spiritual world. He said, but when he calls God Prime Source, he said, when Prime Source asks for volunteers, he said, you're the first ones to put your hand up. Well, my thought is, when I get back, I'm going to go to the vault where they have these soul contracts, and I'm going to check the signature on mine. If it is my signature, then I'm going to review videotapes of the local bars and see the night before the signing took place, how many drinks I had. No, I've really had a great life. But it's been filled with lots of opportunities. It's all about opportunities and learning for learning. And if you think about it, what's the greatest life lesson that most of us all go through? More likely in those earlier years. Bless you. It is validating who we are. With students, I love to ask the question, or during readings, I love to ask the question, who is the most important person in your life? Well, 80% of the people will say, oh, it's my husband, my wife, my children, my parents. And actually the answer is, it's you. Because we've all chosen to come down here. With children, we're just a few chapters ahead of them. They're 3 billion years old as we are. What happens is we agree to amnesia. Now, again, if you knew the answers to the test, is there any reason to take the test? No, there isn't. So that's why we agree to amnesia. It's like we're finding our way each lifetime. There are times when we need to take the approach, this is just a suggestion, that I will understand when I don't understand. Because everything is in divine order. When I was in college, I used to enjoy, that's the time of exploring your thoughts and your, behavior and where you fit in and everything. I'd love to get into discussions about religion. Just love it. Then when I got out of college a little bit later, I said, well, this is kind of like pulling wings off dragonflies. Is it really productive, Is it really helping the other person when I'm sitting there using logic to totally dismantle what they believe? And it's not. Even the simplest, most basic belief system has value. But what we want to do, as people grow through those beliefs, we need to let them go. Let them find other beliefs that feed them, that give them, the knowledge and the learning opportunities that they choose. But many times people will stick through loyalty and say, well, my father was a blank. I'm just going to say blank. I'm not going to use any religion because somebody here has got a background in that religion. And again, tires on the car. It's a white Subaru. Parking lot's filled with them. That's not mine anyway. But we want to be gracious. We want to allow people to make their mistakes. That's why we're here. We don't want to judge. Because we don't want to be judged. I've always had the thought, I would like to be better tomorrow than I am today. Better in behavior, in my thinking. I'd like to be better today than it was yesterday. What's interesting, and I've been around many, many, many people, and some people will say, well, I'm on my path to redemption. I don't say what I'm thinking anymore. And I say, well, that's nice, that's good. But there's a lot of power in your thoughts. There's just as much power in your thoughts as there are in your words. So if you've thought it, you've done it. I had a co-pastor for about 7 years, and that was his approach. He said, well, if I think it, I've done it, so I'm going to say it. I said, no, that's not where we want to go. But keep in mind, the divine power, however you define the divine power, is tremendously intelligent. If you look at life on this planet, life just in the physical body and the brain, how that works, it's a miracle. And everything, if you look at it, everything is designed to help us as we go through this experience. I asked a master teacher one time in a class, I said, is it true that we do a soul's plan? And before we come here, it was a female, and she said, yes. I said, do we write our exit into the plan? She said, yes. I thought, I'm not going to the gym anymore. Jim Fixit just died a couple of months earlier of a heart attack, and the guy had not 1 ounce of fat on his body. He was the runner. I said, why am I going to the gym? Well, you want those last years to be without suffering and pain. I said to her, how often does it come true? That we depart according to what we put in the plan. She said about 70% of the time. The other 30%, you leave early because of lifestyle choices. I said, how does a lifetime on the earth compare to a lifetime on another planet, any other planet? She said, it's the most difficult life you can choose, is to be on the earth. She said, the earth was created for duality. We have unconditional love here, we have hatred here. You can take any emotion and put the extremes out on the table. Not all the planets have that. I said, if it's so difficult, why do we choose to come here? And she said, within an instant, because you can learn faster. It's all about learning. Sometimes we'll come into a lifetime because other people, other souls want to be in our family. I have talked to families that have had 3 children and a husband and a wife, and the spirit person I was communicating with to do a reading said they won't come without each other. They make that a requirement, which is fine. You know, it's all about our free will and our choice. I know some have said, well, I'll go down this time, but I only want to stay for half the time, normal time. I want to leave when I'm 40. And what do? We grieve when they've left, not realizing that was their choice. So, my time is limited. The good thing is about learning, all you have to do is just say out loud or mentally, I'd like to learn more about whatever topic you choose. If it's the big picture, I'd like to learn more about the big picture. And surprisingly, you'll meet somebody who has that experience, or you'll find a book that covers that subject, or you'll go to a workshop or a class, and they're talking about that. That's the way it works. We are the driver. Nobody rules over us. No one. That lesson that everyone goes through is giving our power away. Instead of validating ourselves by who we are, we validate ourselves what other people think of us. And I love to be in that teacher's moment where when that comes up, I would say, why do you choose to do that? And then everything comes together. Oh, it's my choice. I'm the one choosing this. You are. Now, it's natural. As children, we want to please parents. We want to please authority figures, teachers, and others. But as we grow into our teenage years and 20s and 30s and whatever, many of us still want to please people in our lives because we want them to like us. You know, they're the ones that we're getting our validation from. But when we do that, we give our power away. And some people do that their whole lives. It's not a criticism, it's an observation. We're the ones driving the ship. We're the ones making our choices. So when someone says, who are you? Actually, when you see Brendan, say, hey, I found out today who I am. I often say, well, I'm in the witness protection program. I'll be different next month than I am this month. My birthday won't be in March, it'll be in September. Just joking. We are spiritual beings having a learning experience, an earth experience. Literally, it is like going on a long vacation for learning. This isn't the bulk of our existence. The bulk of our existence is in the spiritual world, where we're getting what we want. Life is good. You can eat ice cream and it doesn't add weight to you. Same with chocolate. I heard one spiritual teacher say, well, the reason people come to the earth is because of the chocolate.
Yes.
They don't have chocolate on other planets. I said, whoa, that's good to know. Anyway, I thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a wonderful spiritual person. We're going to do an interesting meditation. It's not something you've experienced in too many places, but I ask you to be open-minded. Okay? So feet flat on the floor. This allows energy to flow through us. If we could dim the lights a little bit, that would help us to get in the mood.
Dim the lights.
The lights.
Dim the lights.
Close your eyes. Now visualize yourself. My mic still on? It's off.
His mic's not, you need to turn his mic.
Visualize yourself sitting in a chair. And 6 feet away from you is another chair that's empty. Visualize a pyramid, the base of the pyramid being about 8 feet wide and 8 feet long. It's a perfect square. but it encompasses both chairs. This is a four-sided pyramid. See each side rising up, becoming narrower until about 10 feet above us, the four sides come to a point. Once they have come to a point, you may feel a change in the energy within the pyramid. That is common. The pyramid is a wonderful tool. Let us visualize the white light of God, the energy of Prime Source, coming into the top of the pyramid. As it enters, it starts to fill the pyramid, the space within the four walls of the pyramid, like it's filling a vase, but it's just upside down. The power comes down until it touches the top of our heads. It flows into our brains, our eyes, our ears, our throats. It continues to fill the pyramid. This power is divine and touches every cell of our being. It comes down into touching our heart, our lungs, all the major organs, our liver, kidneys, pancreas, gallbladder, intestines, flowing into our legs, and then down through our feet and into the earth. Energy is always moving. It cannot be destroyed, nor can it be created, but its form can be changed. We just take a moment and just feel the power of God as it is all around us and within us. Now think about another individual. Think of someone in your life that you've had a very difficult time with. Someone who's been the most disagreeable, or someone who has undermined us, someone who has maybe stolen from us, not only material things, but ideas. Someone who's been mean to us. Visualize that person in the other chair. Visualize that person being filled with the divine power as we are. For we are without judgment. We know that all behaviors basically result as people having difficulty learning those lessons they've chosen. No one comes to this planet with the intention of being cruel and harsh. They just evolve that way. But we take ourselves out of the role of being judge and jury. And for this few moments, we send them the power of God. Their life is for them to lead. If a change is imminent, it will be one that they choose, not one that we choose. But let us visualize another ray of light, and let this be a pink ray of light from the center of our chest, horizontally to the center of the chest of the other person. And let us send the power of love to that individual. Let us feel their entire body being filled with this divine power. The energy of love is the energy of God. And we send this without condition. Again, knowing it's up to the individual to make changes, to do better. But when we remove ourselves from being judge and jury, that energy releases us. The energy of hatred, the energy of animosity, the energy of revenge. it releases us, and we progress on our spiritual pathway. We're grateful for all the blessings that come to us, seen and unseen. We're grateful for the people that have been angels on the earth plane, that have helped us, reached out and helped us when we needed help the most. And we look to opportunities working with the divine power to reach a hand out in friendship to others, even people who are not like us. Because everyone has a soul. Everyone has a spiritual body, which is the energy of God. We express our gratitude as we pray this in our Father's name.